Chronicles of Evimora. Before the moons had names. Before Evi watched the world from above. Before Mora held back the dark. Before Soleus marked the eyes of the Faelin in gold or violet. There was only the first world. And it was dying. The Avasi had only just begun to exist. Not as a tribe, not as a kingdom, not as a people divided by borders, colors, climates, or pride. They were one gathering, one desperate answer. Faelin from scattered valleys, river settlements, stone shelters, forest hollows, and cliff villages had come together beneath the guidance of beings they still did not fully understand. The 5 guardians of light. They did not call them gods. The Faelin had never been good at kneeling, but when the guardians walked through a dying field, Phora steadied. When they touched a sick child, breath returned. When they looked toward the dark places beneath the world, even fear seemed to remember its limits. Among the 5, 2 stood apart. Evinity, radiant, warm, and terrible in her gentleness. Morath, quiet, severe, and beautiful, like a blade left in moonless water. They wore Faelin form, but not as mortals wore it. Their bodies carried light the way storms carried thunder. Their skin shimmered with soft, living radiance. Their eyes held no Soleus, for Soleus had not yet been born. Their twin tails moved with impossible grace behind them, each ending in long, luminous blade-like spikes, their secondary tail hands slender and precise. They were not Kavani, not Danu, not Dryad, not Pirathis, not Iskari. Those names had not yet divided the world. They were Avasi, and for one brief age, that had been enough. The training circle lay in a valley of pale grass and broken stone. Around it stood hundreds of young Faelin, many no older than 15 cycles, some barely old enough to keep their thoughts from spilling into the air noise like overturned water. They watched Evinity stand at the center of the circle, no weapon in her hands, no armor on her body, only light. Behind her, Morath stood perfectly still. That was often how he taught, by making silence feel louder than instruction. Evinity lifted one hand. Again, she said. Her thought moved through every mind present, not forced, not loud, but impossible to ignore. A young Faelin boy stepped into the circle, thin, barefoot, terrified. His voice had failed 3 times already. The others had not mocked him, not here, not under the Guardians. Mockery was a luxury of safer ages. The boy swallowed. I cannot hold the veil. Morath's attention shifted to him. The entire circle felt colder. Not cruelly, precisely. Then stop trying to hold it, Morath said. The boy blinked. You told us Vathrael must be held. No. Morath stepped forward. His dark hair moved though no wind touched it. I told you Vathrael must be entered. You are gripping silence as though it is a throat. That is fear wearing discipline. Several students lowered their eyes. They had done the same. Evinity smiled faintly. The mind is not conquered. It is invited into stillness. The boy closed his eyes. The valley quieted around him. The air noise softened. His breath slowed. One gate, then another. Open, hearkening faded. Selective veiling drew inward. For one trembling heartbeat, the boy found Vathrael. True quiet. Then he spoke aloud. Resh. His voice cracked. A few sparks of pale Phora burst from his lips and became harmless motes that drifted upward. Noise. State 1. The boy's shoulders dropped in shame. Evinity crossed the circle and knelt before him. Why are you ashamed? It was only noise. Noise is the first proof that the world heard you. She touched his forehead gently. Now, learn to deserve its attention. A horn sounded from the ridge. No, not a horn. A thought. A warning hurled so violently through the valley that half the students staggered. Corruption at the northern line. Every adult Avasi turned at once. Morath's expression changed. Barely. But Evinity saw it. So did the other guardians. Far beyond the valley, above the black pine ridges, the sky had begun to dim, not with storm, with absence. The color drained from the world in a widening scar. Grass bent away from it. Birds fell silent. Phora recoiled. Then the first scream reached them. The Noctyra came through the ridge settlement like a wound learning to walk. There were 2 of them. Only 2. And still the Avasi line was breaking. The creatures moved among shattered homes and torn bodies, enormous silhouettes of chitin, bone, mist, and hunger. Their skin was black in a way that did not reflect darkness, but drank it. Jagged spines rose along their backs, each pulsing with sick grey-violet nithra. One had wings, torn, too many jointed, dragging behind it like a ruined banner. The other moved low to the ground, on 4 massive limbs, its skull elongated and eyeless, its face filled with drifting cold mist. Where their feet touched soil, roots blackened. Where their claws struck stone, Phora cracked. Where their minds pressed outward, memories faltered. An Avasi warrior lunged with a spear. The winged Noctyra caught him mid-strike, lifted him, and opened its mouth. The warrior's body did not simply die. It emptied. His skin grayed. His eyes turned white. His memories spilled into the air as flickering fragments. A mother's face, rain on wood, a child laughing, the shape of a song. Then the Noctyra crushed him and threw the husk aside. A young student vomited behind Evinity. Another began to sob through the shared mind. Morath's thought cut across them all. Seal your gates. Instantly, every trained Avasi pulled inward. Selective veiling. Those who could not were dragged behind the lines by elders. Evinity looked to the other guardians. Protect the children. Morath looked at the 2 Noctyra. They are not here for the settlement. Evinity followed his gaze. Beyond the village, beneath a ring of cracked stones, glowed an exposed Phora vein. Young, raw, newly awakened. The Noctyra were feeding their corruption into it. If the vein turned, the entire valley would poison. The Avasi would lose not one settlement. They would lose the first school, the first gathering, the first hope. Evinity's face hardened. Then they stop here. The twisted Noctyra saw her first. Its eyeless face turned. The mist within its skull tightened. Recognition passed through the air, like a blade drawn slowly. It knew light. It hated light. It feared light. Then it screamed, not aloud, inside every mind. Students collapsed. Warriors staggered. Memories tore loose. A woman forgot her own name and began clawing at her face. Morath moved. One moment he stood beside Evinity. The next he was in front of the screaming Noctyra. His twin tails struck first. Both luminous spikes drove into the ground and pulled him forward with terrifying speed. He twisted low beneath a claw swipe, planted one hand against the creature's chest, and spoke. Not Phora, not spellcraft. Light. Voryun! The word did not echo. It commanded. White radiance punched through the Noctyra's torso. The beast slammed backward through a stone wall, black fluid spraying across the ruins in burning streaks. Where the fluid struck Avasi's skin, it hissed. Where it touched Morath, it became ash. The second Noctyra charged Evinity. Fast. Too fast for something so large. Its claws carved 4 trenches through the earth as it lunged. Evinity did not retreat. She stepped forward. Her tail hands opened. One caught a broken spear from the ground. The other caught a falling shard of stone. She threw both, without looking. The spear pierced the creature's forelimb joint. The stone struck its throat. Then Evinity leapt. Her twin tails slammed into the ground behind her and launched her upward over the creature's head. She spun in the air, both tail spikes flashing with radiant force, and drove them down into the Noctyra's spine. The impact split bone. The beast roared and bucked violently. Evinity landed on its back and grabbed two of its jagged spines. Light poured from her hands. The Noctyra's flesh smoked beneath her grip. It reared, trying to crush her against a broken pillar. She kicked away at the last instant, flipping backward as the pillar shattered. An Avasi fighter shouted through the mind link, "We can help!" Morath's answer was immediate. "No," the fighter bristled. "We are Avasi. Then obey." Evinity landed beside Morath. For one breath, light and restraint stood side by side. The two Noctyra circled them, wounded, enraged, learning. That was the worst part. Noctyra adapted. They did not merely attack. They studied weakness. The winged Noctyra opened its torn wings. Noctyra pulsed through the membranes. The air above the settlement collapsed inward. Phora currents twisted. Several Avasi spells failed before they were cast. A healer, attempting to close a wound, screamed as the healing reversed, reopening flesh. Evinity saw it. Her expression changed from anger to grief. Morath felt it. Do not. They are suffering. If you spend light on every wound, you will have none left for the source. I know. Evinity. She looked at him. Their thoughts touched privately, deeper than words. 1,000 battles, 1,000 losses, the unbearable cost of choosing where light must go. Then she turned toward the wounded. Teach them now. Morath stared. Now. Yes. The ground shook as the Noctyra advanced. Evinity projected her thought to every surviving student and warrior. Listen to me. Vathrael first, voice second. A terrified girl answered. We cannot cast near them. Then do not cast at them. Evinity raised both hands. Cast with me. Morath understood. Dangerous, reckless, brilliant. He stepped behind her and turned toward the Avasi line. Open hearkening will kill you here. Selective veiling will save you. Vathrael will make you useful. One boy screamed back, We are children. Morath's eyes flashed. Then become children who live. Evinity began to sing. Not a song of restoration. Not an Ikora hymn. Those arts had not yet been named. This was older, a guardian harmonic. Light braided into voice. The sound moved through the valley and struck every Avasi chest like a second heartbeat. The students trembled. Then one by one, they followed. Not with words, with breath, with intention, with resonance. At first it was noise. Colors burst and died. Phora flickered. A student's voice cracked and threw sparks across the sand. Then came resonance. The valley leaned closer. Phora gathered. The wounded steadied. The corrupted veins stopped spreading. Evinity's light became the center. The Avasi became the circle. The Noctyra sensed the shift and attacked. Morath met them alone. The winged one struck high. The low one struck wide. Morath moved between both. His tail stabbed into the earth, pivoting his entire body in impossible angles. A claw tore across his ribs, opening a wound of radiant blood. He ignored it. His left tail spike hooked under the winged Noctyra's jaw and yanked its head downward. His right hand caught the low creature's forelimb. Bone cracked beneath his grip. The low Noctyra snapped at his shoulder. Morath turned his face toward it. Kahil! A blade of light formed from the spoken command and sliced through the creature's mouth from inside out. Black blood sprayed across his chest. Still it came. Still they came. Morath grinned then. Small, cold, good. He drove both tail spikes into the ground and pulled himself beneath the winged Noctyra's body, slashing upward with light along his forearms. Its abdomen opened in a wet black spill. The beast crashed down. Morath climbed its falling body like terrain, using spine and bone as footholds, then launched toward the second creature. It caught him in midair. Claws closed around his torso. The pressure would have crushed a mortal. Morath exhaled. Vathrael became absolute. All inward gates closed. No pain, no fear, no air noise. Only purpose. He spoke. Vaher Morath Vel. The Noctyra's claws locked, not broken, bound. Shadowed restraint formed around its limbs, in pale white bands, edged with silver darkness. Not Mora, not yet. But the idea of Mora, unborn and waiting somewhere in him. The creature thrashed. Morath's eyes burned. Now, Evinity. The Avasi circle reached true casting for the first time. Not one person, all of them. Briefly, imperfectly, together. Evinity drew their resonance through herself and shaped it into light. The valley went silent. Even the Noctyra stopped moving. For one impossible instant, reality became aware. Evinity spoke. Lumen Avasi. Light erupted outward. Not fire, not lightning. Meaning. Purpose made visible. The beam struck the corrupted Phora vein first. Blackness burned away. The ground screamed. Then the light split into 5 streams, each one arcing through the settlement and striking the wounded Noctyra. The grotesque creature tried to flee. Too late. Light entered its torn limbs and wrote existence back into them in a language darkness could not survive. Its body came apart in layers. Chitin cracked. Bone dissolved. Mist boiled away. The second Noctyra fought harder. Bound by Morath's restraint, pierced by Evinity's light, it still crawled forward, toward the students, toward the children. A young Avasi girl froze as its eyeless face came within a few lengths of her. Its mouth opened. Memory began to pull from her. Her first laugh, her mother's hands, the smell of rain. Evinity screamed telepathically. No! She moved faster than thought. Her tails launched her across the battlefield. She landed between the girl and the creature, drove one hand into the Noctyra's open mouth, and seized whatever passed for a throat inside it. The beast bit down. Her arm burned. Radiant blood spilled into its jaws. Evinity leaned close. Her voice came soft, almost tender. Return what you took. Light detonated from inside the Noctyra's skull. Its head burst apart in a spray of black ash, bone fragments, and dissolving mist. The memories it had stolen scattered like fireflies. For a moment, the air filled with lives nearly lost. Then they returned to their owners. The girl collapsed, sobbing. Evinity caught her with her uninjured arm. I have you. The girl clung to her. I was gone. Not far enough. The battle ended without triumph. That was how the Avasi learned the truth of war. Victory did not sing. It counted bodies. The settlement burned in places. The dead were gathered in rows beneath pale cloth. The wounded lay in the grass, while healers worked with shaking hands. Evinity sat on a broken stone step, while a young healer wrapped her mangled arm. Morath stood nearby, his own wounds closing slowly beneath fading light. The students watched them differently now, not as legends, not as radiant answers, as beings who bled. A boy approached, the same one whose spell had failed that morning. His face was ash-streaked, His voice trembled through thought. Was that Vathriel? Morath looked at him. A beginning. I was afraid. Good. The boy blinked. Evinity smiled faintly. Morath continued. Fear tells you the truth. Panic lies about what to do next. The boy looked toward the burned village. Will we ever be able to fight them like you? Neither guardian answered immediately. That silence frightened him more. At last, Divinity said, No. The boy's shoulders sank. Then she added, You will fight like yourselves. That is the only way mortals survive. Morath looked toward the corrupted ridge, where darkness still lingered beneath the soil. Light cannot remain everywhere. Eviniti's expression dimmed. But discipline can. That night, the Avasi gathered around the restored Phora vein. No celebration, only remembrance. The 5 guardians stood among them, not above them. Evinity spoke first. Today you learned why voice is dangerous. Morath followed, and why silence is sacred. Another guardian placed a hand upon the glowing vein. You learned that Phora listens. Evinity looked across the young faces, some terrified, some grieving, some changed forever. One day, we may not be here to stand between you and the dark. The words settled heavily. No one liked them. No one misunderstood them. Morath's gaze moved over the gathered Avasi. So you will learn the gates. Evinity lifted her wounded hand. You will learn resonance. The other guardians spoke as one through thought. You will learn restraint. For the first time, the Avasi answered together. Not with worship, not with obedience, with choice. We stand together. The valley responded. Phora pulsed beneath their feet. Not commanded, invited. Far above, the night sky remained empty. No Evi, no Mora, no twin lights to guard the world. Only stars, only darkness, only 5 beings of light, who already understood the price of remaining too long. Evinity looked upward. Morath noticed. You are thinking of sacrifice again. She did not deny it. I am thinking of what they will need when we are gone. They need us alive. For now. Morath stepped beside her. Together they watched the Avasi tend their wounded, gather their dead, comfort their children, and begin rebuilding before the ashes had cooled. His voice softened through thought. If that day comes... Evinity looked at him. He finished. We choose together. She smiled then. Sad, radiant, inevitable. We always have. Beyond the valley, in the deep fractures beneath the world, more Noctyra stirred. The war had not been won, not even close. But on that night, in the first world before the moons had names, the Avasi learned the lesson that would save them long after the guardians were gone. Power was not the voice, not the light, not even Phora. Power was the discipline to shape what answered, and the restraint to survive being answered back.